Hi, and welcome to Unapologetically Me with Kalila. Today I've been wanting to talk about generations and how each generation, I'll just get into the talk because it's kind of hard for me to kind of put words to. But anyways, so my generation, I'm the very end of the baby boomers and the very beginning of Gen X. So I was born the last year of baby boomers in 1964. And it's a very confusing time. I was the youngest of four, and they say that the first 7 years are the most impactful for who we're going to be, who our character is, right? And we look at all of the different generations, and you think about what each generation had to go through during their youngest years and struggle. And for me, I was the youngest of four. It was the 60s, early 70s growing up. And there was a lot of mixed messages. So it was coming out of the free love, or within that free love time, but then it was also, I had my mom's generation of, kind of like, don't touch yourself. Like, oh my God, I got in trouble for enjoying washing my certain parts too much in the bathtub. Don't do that. It's an evil thing, right? Because, we're brainwashed into thinking certain things. But then it was the time of free love. And so everybody's talking about, oh, if it feels good, do it, and da 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 da. And so it's very confusing. It's like for me, I didn't have the right to self pleasure because that was evil. But then at the same time, men are going to do things to you and it's your fault. And, hey, allow this or whatever, do that. And it was like all of these different messages. And so that was part of my trauma, I suppose you would say. But we have those first 7 years, again, most impactful. And if my first 7 years is, well, we'll go from my first 7 years, we're racing to the telephone versus anybody can call you at any given time and you can see who's calling you. You can FaceTime them and see them, and, a very different experience versus, you're outside playing, nobody can reach you. If you can't hear them calling for you out the door, then, that's it. You come home when the streetlights get dark or come on, so to speak. That was the rule anyways. When the streetlights come on, you come home. And so very different upbringing. My childhood, I had to be self-reliant. If you got hurt, it was the suck it up and, walk it off kind of thing. Versus today, it's like, oh, my poor baby, you got hurt. Let me take care of that for you. And, oh, you bad person for hurting my child and whatever. And the parents are coming in and taking care of it for you. And the children aren't learning how to be responsible for their actions, and they're not learning how to problem solve, or they're not learning how to navigate the world around them because parents are like this, oh, let me protect you and put bubble wrap all around you and helmets and everything else because they might bump their heads. That's how we learn. For my generation, that's how you learned. You were on roller skates were made out of, those metal wheels way back in the day, and you fell down. Oh, you learned to go slower or just skate on the grass. I was the grass skater. I didn't like going on the sidewalk. My sister broke her arm, which is why I preferred the grass with those darn metal roller skates. Anyways, yes, we learn these things from experiences. And if we're not getting to have those experiences, then we don't really learn. We learn secondhand by watching someone else. And that might be well and good, but we don't really know it if we're not learning it hardcore. And I say that as the fire. Don't touch the fire, it's hot. The kid puts her hand in the fire. Wow, that's hot. Okay, now I know. I know what you're talking about. And it's those kind of things. If I put, too much of something when I'm cooking, it's not going to turn out right. I learn from mistakes. Or I could just read the recipe. I don't follow recipes very well. So I learn from mistake. And I usually just make up my own stuff as I go anyways. But that's me with my amazing neurodivergent brain that I love so much because it makes life so much fun. It would be kind of boring to have just a neurotypical brain in my reality, although I don't know what it's like to have a neurotypical brain. That being said, each one of our experiences, and I'm going to kind of explain here We have the media. We have, at one point, it was just newspapers and then radio and then, with books and word of mouth. And you'd have people coming in telling you what you needed. And you need this and you need that. And you had like the higher ups, the mayors or whatever, and the governors and the congressmen and the president, and you have all these people telling you, and the schools telling you how to live your life and what you should want and strive for, and what's important, kind of thing. And that changes. And that changes because we're in essence lab rats. And I hate to say it like that, but that's how we're viewed by the powers that be. Let's see how we can make the people do this. Let's see if we can make them do that. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see what happens if we throw this in there. Ba-da-da-da-da. We're lab rats. That's why they want us going to the doctor, so they can monitor everything that we're doing. They want to put in these little microchip things into us so that they can just monitor us 24/7, whether we go to the doctor or not. They're putting it in the air. Or at least they have, or they threaten to, I don't know. But there's all these things that we're being bombarded with that kind of like control us in certain respects. And neurotypicals are much easier to be controlled because they are the focus group that the powers that be are going after. That's their target audience, if you will, is the neurotypicals. Neurodivergence, yeah, we can't follow half of what's going on anyways, and we're going to do our own little thing because, ooh, look, shiny or something, right? And yeah, we do get distracted quite easily. And then we can hyper focus on things, and then we can, overthink so many things. But that's what makes us different, but also makes us less controllable. And so I prefer having my neurodivergent brain, and hopefully if you have one too, you would love it and enjoy it just as much because we're not as easily controlled. I'm not saying we can't be controlled by the foods we eat that bring us down to lower vibration because of all the highly processed foods and fast foods and all the kind of gross things that goes on within the fast food industry. I mean, I've heard for years, I've been hearing that human flesh has been found inside burgers, especially at McDonald's is like the main culprit there apparently. And I've been hearing that for decades, that they've been doing this. And so be it true or not, I don't eat that stuff, so I avoid it. And I certainly don't want to say it's okay that they're doing that, because it's far from okay that that's happening, if that's happening. I honestly believe that it is. I've seen a lot of videos of people testing it and it coming back, showing that there is human tissue in it, human meat, if you will. And that can't be by accident. I mean, I remember as a child, there was somebody found a finger or something like that in their burger, and how gross that was, right? And now they're finding teeth and finding bone parts and stuff like that. I mean, they're not even hiding it as well as they used to. But let's get off of that because that's not about this so much. Anyways, so each generation has its own trials that they've been thrown to or had thrown at them. There we go. And again, unapologetically me, who said I can think straight, especially in the morning. Anyways, yeah, so we have these different challenges that we're being guided towards, if you will. And that includes this separatism, because the more we try to come together saying, hey, look, we're all the same. We're all individual, unique parts of the same whole. Like, let's say the body is one being and we're all, as me, individual parts of another larger being. And then you have brain cells, right? So there's people that might act as brain cells, or heart cells are much more about love. The lung cells, they're getting the work done and getting things breathing, coming in and out. And then you have muscle cells and skin cells and different organs, the cleaners and the ones that produce the hormones. We have all these different jobs going on in the body, and each person has a different job, which makes them part of the greater whole, if you're looking at it from that point of view. And so not everybody you meet is going to be intelligent, because they don't need to be. There might be skin cells. They're there for a short time protecting the body. They're like the armor, and they're going to drop off. Like it's exactly like the army. You have, this protection layer, and it breaks off. Skin cells are constantly falling off every day. You have people that come and go very quickly, but they're strong and protecting. They're out fighting and protecting the whole, right? So we have different jobs that we do. And then you have these, I don't know, couldn't call them brain cells, but you have this elite group that is trying to control the whole body, right? Let's call them the outside invaders, even, because they're not really part of us. And they're getting us to fight each other. So it's kind of like saying the heart cells are going to fight the lung cells, because, like, how dare you, breathe or whatever? How dare you get into my space as, I'm trying to beat and you're over here breathing, and who knows? But you get what I'm saying. It's like we're fighting amongst ourselves and we're still part of the same body. So why should I fight my neighbors? Why should I not care about you or not show you the same respect that I would want just because you're a different type of cell, a different type of human being than myself? But we're all part of the same whole. I hope you can kind of follow what I'm trying to say, because I can see this amazing picture in my mind and get all these, ideas of what I'm trying to put into a few words, and it just doesn't always seem to come out the way I want it to. But I'm going to continue. So if there's this outside force that can get me or get each individual cell to fight with the others, then we're not all getting together saying, hey, wait a minute, we're all friends here. We're all part of the same whole. Look what we're fighting. Look at this outside force that's trying to come in and tear us apart, right? So we have to see each other as part of the same whole. We're all beings here having this experience, having this life through the Creator, right? So the Creator created all these little beings, or we're cells in the Creator's body, if you will, and we're having these different experiences, and that's great. It's fun. We get to live. Or we can say, oh no, I've got to be careful and I got to protect myself. I can't let anything come in and hurt me, so I'm just going to stay in my house and not do anything because I'm afraid. And there's those cells too, and those could be important parts. And we might transition from being one type of cell to another. We can morph at all times. We can constantly be changing. So maybe one day, we're that protective little cell of I'm not going anywhere because something bad's going to happen. And then we can come out and say, you know what? I'm going to be a heart cell. I want to love. I want to go out and love people. I want to go out and share this joyful feeling. And we can do that. We can do that for each other. And the more we can get everybody on those same pages, it's okay if we lose some of the cells. It's okay if you change from being a skin cell to a heart cell or a brain cell. Maybe you want to be an eye cell and be the clear seer for this body that we're all a part of, if we want to look at it that way. Anyways, with the generations, we have to understand that we can't blame any generation for a certain mindset that they've adapted, because it's being somewhat controlled, if not largely controlled. And once we can start seeing that, once people, the masses, start understanding that we get to choose at any given time. I don't have to follow that path just because it's put in front of me. I don't have to think that that's the path I have to take. I can say, okay, that's one path. And you have, the teachers, especially because we're indoctrinated into thinking that our children have to go and get this brainwashing thing that takes 12 years to brainwash them into being obedient little robots, kind of like mindless creatures that are doing what they're told, right? Don't question authority. We can do that, or we can say, hey, think for yourself. What do you want? What feels right for you? And a lot of times it takes people decades to break away from what they were taught those 12 years of schooling. Yeah, so start breaking away. Start thinking for yourself. Start deciding, what is it you want? It doesn't have to matter what generation we were born in. I mean, each generation was given its own trauma that was predetermined and fed to us, force fed to us. I mean, the quality of our food and everything has always been changing, and it's by design, if you will. It's been cultivated, it's been regulated, it's been decided, voted on by the powers that be as to what they're going to give us little peasants, if you will. And it's up to us to say, you know what? I deserve better. I'm going to fight for better. I'm going to do better. I'm not going to follow that path that was put before me. And I don't want to say it takes a neurodivergent brain to do that, but let's face it, neurodivergents just don't fall into the ability to be controlled or manipulated as easily as a neurotypical. And all of the studies and all of the work that they're doing, their target audience is the neurotypical. That's what's considered the masses. But because of so much that's been shifting, it's almost normal to have a neurodivergent brain than a neurotypical brain. I don't know at what degree we're at this point, but I truly believe that there's probably more people that are neurodivergent than they even realize, because they're still struggling and pretending to be a neurotypical when they're not, because they don't want to be considered an outcast. And let's face it, if the majority of us are outcasts, then who's the outcast? Exactly how does that fit? I mean, we're all individual, unique beings. Each one of us, our physiology is completely unique to us. The bacteria in my stomach are unique to my body. Nobody else has the same, bacteria and things, whatever, microbes inside of their bodies as I do. And that's going to dictate how my body's going to process the different foods that I eat and the medications that I might take and whatever else. All of those play a factor. So we're each individual, unique beings, at the same time being a part of the whole, being one cell within the giant God or whatever that we're a part of. And that's just an analogy to understand how we're connected. It's not, I'm not saying that we are actual just cells pretending to be humans having this experience. No, we're not. But at the same time, who knows? Could be. But anyways, thank you for joining me on this little spat about generations. And yeah, don't hate on the next generation just because they're different. They have their own struggles. They have, each generation has got like this whole thing that was fed to them that they have to process how to get out of their box, how to benefit from what they were thrown at them, and how they can evolve above that, or to come up out of that. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I hope you got something out of this video. Maybe just think a little bit more about how we are all connected, and maybe have a little bit more love for yourself. Give yourself a great big hug, and hopefully I see you again. Have a beautiful day.